time now for Campaign Chronicles, our regular countdown to the presidential election. And for that, I'm joined by our French politics editor, Mark Perlman, and our media editor, James Creedon, who have all the reaction in the press and on the internet for you as well. Now, if you look at the papers and the television, the Toulouse murders are still very much everywhere. But how are they affecting voters and their intentions, Mark?
Strangely enough, they're not, for now. There's no effect whatsoever. There are two very interesting polls that came out today. We're going to see them. The first one is about voting intentions, and they're essentially similar to the ones that were taken before the Toulouse and Montauban shootings. This means Nicolas Sarkozy and his socialist rival François Hollande are neck and neck. They're very close.
It's very close, half a percentage
point. It's very close.
I see.
Some others show Sarkozy a little bit in front, but it hasn't changed at all.
Right.
There's another poll, which is also maybe even more interesting and helps explain this first poll, is about the priorities of the French. In the second round, François Hollande is...
He's way ahead there.
Is way ahead,
right.
54-46.
Okay.
This other poll shows the top priorities of the French, and one could imagine that after the shootings, crime, immigration, terrorism would be at the top of the list. And the result of this BVA poll show, absolutely not. It's still the issue of purchasing power, unemployment, economic growth, poverty, growth, and immigration and crime, which is sometimes called insecurity in France, are just way behind. 8% only of the French say this is their top priority. And this is certainly bad news for Nicolas Sarkozy, who was hoping that the focus on this issue of crime, terrorism, immigration, Islam would help him, especially since those polls say they appreciated Nicolas Sarkozy's stance. So it might still be too early. Sometimes you need to wait a little bit more for some of the news to percolate in the polls. But for now, this is bad news for Nicolas Sarkozy. Nothing has changed after the shootings.
All right, and that's interesting, isn't it, James? Because if you look at the press here, it's absolutely saturated with Mohamed Merah. You know, how did he become radicalised? Was he acting alone? All of this kind of thing, wasn't it?
That's right, and perhaps, as Mark was just saying, it doesn't necessarily reflect the real concerns of the people on the ground. Maybe the media are talking about issues that aren't necessarily the ones that most concern people. Let's have a quick look at the social media buzz tool on our website, because what that shows is the way in which these issues, security on the one hand and employment politics on the other, have been discussed on social media in the past 7 days. Now you can see here a massive peak for discussion on security in the middle of the past week or so, and you can see here now employment issues gaining some currency in terms of how they're discussed on social media.
All right. Now, Mark, the economy very much back in the picture, not least because we saw the unemployment figures at a near 14-year high yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. And much to the relief of the socialists, who were concerned that there would be too much focus on crime and immigration, where they're seen sometimes as being soft, quote unquote. And so the fact that for the 10th month in a row, unemployment rose in France, although, of course, it's sad for them, it's good news because they can really refocus on Nicolas Sarkozy and his 5-year mandate, saying, you know, we've seen 1 million more people unemployed in the last 5 years, and this is bad news. And clearly, one of the socialist leaders, the party leader, actually, Martine Aubry, pounded Nicolas Sarkozy this morning on the radio.
Qui va vous donner les solutions
Who is going
pour
to
sortir de
provide
la crise,
solutions to
pour
the
remettre la
crisis, make
justice,
things
c'est-à-dire
fair?
créer des
I mean,
emplois, donner
create
un
jobs,
avenir à
give
vos
your
enfants
children
par
a good
l'éducation,
education and a
vous
good
permettre à nouveau
future,
d'avoir accès
give you
au
access to
logement,
accommodation
d'avoir
and
accès aux
healthcare.
soins. Voilà les
These are
seules
the questions
questions
the
qui
French
intéressent
want
les Français,
answers to,
et
and
voilà
they
les
have formed
seules
the
questions
basis
sur
of
lesquelles
François
depuis
Hollande's
le
campaign
début
from the
de cette
start.
campagne, François
That's what he
Hollande
asks
parle
about
tous
every
les
day
jours
when he
en
meets
allant à la
French
rencontre des
voters.
Français.
All right, there's Martine Aubry there. But the leftist leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, meanwhile, is still causing some major headaches for the Socialist Party, isn't he? And he was in Martine Aubry's hometown of Lille today, holding a rally.
Yes, absolutely. Jean-Luc Mélenchon is the man on the rise. He's at the helm of the so-called Left Front, which is a coalition based around the old Communist Party, and he's been steadily rising in the polls, now around 13-15%. And he's really an interesting figure, a very skilled speaker, and he's been doing very well at rallies, but he's eating up votes from his socialist rival, François Hollande. So on its face, it's bad news for the socialists because it means less votes for them. But actually, it could be good news because it provides them with a reservoir of votes for the second round, especially because Jean-Luc Mélenchon has promised that he would support François Hollande if he doesn't get to the second round. But tonight, Jean-Luc Mélenchon was still pursuing the first round strategy, which is eat up as many votes from the socialists, and he went to one of the symbolic places of socialism in France, the northern city of Lille.
Jean-Luc Mélenchon is here in Lille in the north of France this Tuesday. It's the setting for his biggest indoor rally yet. Upwards of 12,000 people are expected. The timing's good. More and more polls indicate that he is the man of the moment. Some are even putting him at third place. He says, though, that he's not fazed by that success.
You're third. How do you react?
Third? No, I'm walking ahead.
But in the polls, everything's going well?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Jean-Luc Mélenchon's message is resolutely left-wing. He's got the backing of the French Communist Party. But his success goes further than that. Many of the people here are simply disenchanted with the political status quo. And that comes across when you ask them for who they voted back in 2007 at the last presidential election.
Pour Marie-Georges Buffet.
J'ai voté Royal.
Ségolène Royal.
Coming to Lille is symbolic. This is a socialist stronghold. Its mayor is the Socialist Party boss. Many say Mélenchon's rise is coming at the expense of François Hollande. The UMP Conservatives have even complimented his talent. But it's a risk that he rejects.
Here, when the left goes up, the right loses. That's the goal. That's what we're doing. They like to confuse things and make everything complicated. That's part of the game. It's to be expected. They're losing, they're cornered.
As you can see, it's a large and enthusiastic crowd that's come to see Jean-Luc Mélenchon. He is well known for his oratory skills. His gamble has already perhaps paid off. He's succeeded in pushing the socialist candidate further leftwards. He's also succeeded in creating a popular counterpoint to the far-right National Front Party. We're into the final month of the campaign. He'll be hoping to capitalise on this electoral fervour.
All right, Luke Brown there reporting from Lille. And he is causing something of a storm on Twitter as well, isn't he, Jean-Luc Mélenchon?
That's right.
Lots of people support him.
A quick look at, again, at our social media buzz tool on the France 24 website. Now, what you can do here is... That's right. You can check how discussed this candidate was on social media in the past 2 days. Now, you can check... You can either isolate Twitter, Facebook, or indeed this tool on our website. You can see here in the past 2 days an increase of 126% in discussion.
Can you compare that to another candidate?
You can compare it to other candidates. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can do with this tool. Can I do it now? Gosh, you're testing my social media buzz skills. I can't do it now. How about that for an answer?
But you can do it yourself if you go to the website. It does look very
tomorrow when I've mastered it better.
All right, now, Mark, technical issues aside, let's talk about Dominique Strauss-Kahn. It's hard to believe, isn't it? It was just a year ago and people were saying he could be the next socialist president of France. Very different story today. He's defending himself against charges of links to a global prostitution ring.
Absolutely. He was, until last May, the clear favourite to win French elections. We've discussed this a number of times, that he was really ahead, way ahead. Now he's obviously fallen totally off the radar screen. I mean, he's a nobody in French politics. It's very hard for him to fathom, but that's the way it is. And the Socialist Party leaders today, when they learned that he was formally investigated for participating in this prostitution ring, say, well, you know, it's an old story. We've already moved to other things. And even the Conservatives are not commenting on this. When the DSK scandal erupted, they were so happy because they thought they had killed the best socialist candidate, or he had committed suicide, rather, politically. But however, François Hollande was able to replace him and is polling as high as Dominique Strauss-Kahn. So for him, he's really now in the crime pages and not in the political pages. And for the socialists, they've been able to separate themselves from Dominique Strauss-Kahn. And this was a hard thing to do, but they've managed to pull it off.
And as you know, James, from doing Media Watch, there's barely been a day go by when Dominique Strauss-Kahn hasn't been in the news one way or another.
That's right. It's more, as Mark was saying, kind of a fait divers, as they say in France. It's kind of a public interest topic as opposed to a political interest issue. Let's take a look at one tweet. This is from the New Yorker journalist Philip Gorovich. DSK charged with aggravated pimping. Sounds like Tony Soprano. I suppose that shows you the extent to which it's become almost a popular culture story. Right. And it is amazing to think that 1 year ago he was the favourite to take on Nicolas Sarkozy and win.
He's got his lawyer saying, I defy anyone to tell a naked woman whether it's a prostitute or a classy lady.
Because, they dress differently.
This is the kind of thing he's being associated with.
He's fallen from lofty heights, I suppose you could say.
And just before we go, last chance for a plug. Tell us what's on the website.
That's right. Well, you can basically play around with this tool and see the way different themes are discussed from one day to the next over periods of weeks or months. You can actually check out the timeline to see what themes are buzzing most on social media and what candidates are getting most discussion on social media. You can either check out Twitter or Facebook or combine all three if you want with our social media
on
tool.
France24.
On France24's website.
James Creedon, Mark Perlman, thank you both very much indeed. We'll be back with another Campaign Chronicles at the same time tomorrow.